That's our cue to start talking.
I guess.
Hello. Welcome to what are we going to call this? The last transpositions of 2024.
It is. Well,
we
will
are.
be transposing into 2025 for
The next episode. You will see us in the new year. We don't have Ember live tonight, but we do have some good news from Ember pre-recorded, so don't worry, we're gonna have plenty of that coming up for you in the show. But yeah, welcome back to the Transpositions Network. This is the Transpositions Weekly, a weekly show where we bring you updates on the last 7 days of news that impacts and affects the trans community, and that extends, of course, into sports coverage with Stephanie and Carly Chardonnay-Webb. So that usually comes at the end of the show. So if that's what you're into, if you're wanting to talk about some sports stuff, stick around to the end of the show. Hopefully we get some great coverage for you coming up. Anyhow, speaking of sports coverage, I know that there was a big boat race. Is that right? Down in Australia?
There was a big boat race. There's a race that happens on Boxing Day. So it actually starts, seeing as it's from Sydney to Sydney on the mainland of Australia to Hobart on the south shore of Tasmania. It started yesterday and finished today, and here's a little bit of the finish. Let's see what we do here.
That boat looks kind of awesome too. Look at that.
Yeah, that boat is, I believe that boat is Comanche, which was built here in Maine. Actually, it was built at Hodgdon's Yachts.
I like the moth-tan colors.
To be first out of Sydney Heads.
All in all, it was actually a pretty fast exit for these little boats because the best breeze was in Sydney Harbour.
Mm-hmm. Holy shit.
Extraordinary scenes here on the Derwent. They've done it. Law Connect over the finishing line.
Here she comes. She is powering up the river.
This guy.
I think they're going to do it, Peter.
It's pretty amazing. They've got a reef in the sail. Like, what the hell?
Alive.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's that. Yeah.
Pretty cool. That happens every year on
Pretty
Boxing
cool.
Day.
Every year on Boxing Day. Yeah, a bunch of boats do it. You know, there's those things are like 85 footers, and but there are little boats that do it. 40 footers or so. And actually, I watched the start of it yesterday, and the little boats just dominate. It gives a pin and favorite start, and the little boats. The first boat across the line was a small boat. Of course, they got swallowed up. The problem with the pin end start is you're starting on starboard tack, and the big boats are going to roll over you and take your wind real soon. So you have to figure out, okay, how much can we stand before we have to tack? And then if you tack, you're on port tack, and you can't be. Somebody might run over you. There was actually a pretty crazy port starboard incident where I forget who it was, but they tried to slap a lee bow on this guy who's coming along, and so they jammed the thing over, but the boat had a canting keel, and what I think happened, it was really blowing hard. It was like blowing 18 to 25 or so. So they slammed the boat over. Okay, this is great. And then they nearly broached. It was like, oh my, that wasn't well executed. They just sat there struggling for a bit. But anyway, yeah, it was pretty weird.
Well,
pretty fun.
I tell you what, I hate to come out swinging with bad news, but there's good news later on. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this here, because this has been I knew about this last week's show, but I really couldn't find any good write-ups on it to break it down for us. But Disney confirms it cut the trans storyline from Win or Lose. Now the scene allegedly leaked.
Win or lose. Can't win for losing.
I don't know anything about this feature. Besides, apparently this team's called the Pickles, which
Yeah.
And it looks like maybe you're supposed to be a bunch of misfits. I don't know, but Disney cut storyline featuring a trans character from its forthcoming animated series, Win or Lose. The company confirmed this week a move the actress portraying the character called very disheartening. Win or Lose, which premieres in February, centers on a co-ed middle school softball team and its members experiences leading up to a championship game. A spokesperson from Disney confirms to the Hollywood Reporter on Tuesday that the storyline that would have established one character as a trans girl has been removed. When it comes to animated content for our younger audience, we recognize that many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects with their children on their own terms and timeline. This spokesperson told THR, adding that the decision had been made several months ago. So, I mean, y'all released Song of the South pretty right in everybody's face and didn't have any work. I mean, parents might want to talk about that with their kids at their own terms too, but no, you said, we're going to talk about racial issues and stuff and put it right there in your face, and you're going to deal with it. Why can't you stand by that now?
All right, so there's an awful lot to unpack here. If I understand it, or if I understand things are right, it's about a co-ed kids softball team.
Right.
And one of the kids was trans. And the theme of the story was inclusiveness. And they kicked the trans kid out, not because they were playing on a team of the wrong gender, but they were playing at all. That they were playing at all. Now,
so a trans person can't even be included on a co-ed team.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm really sorry. That's not, well, we're just playing to parent sensitivities about a topic. It's saying you don't want to include them in your feature film. Trans people are only worth money when we're part of a political jihad. That sucks, Disney. That sucks. You suck.
We have a Carly sighting.
Yay. Sorry, okay. Holy Christ.
Apparently some of this has leaked. The character before they nixed the transgender story plot had been leaked on Twitter.
Are we talking about the whole Disney thing?
Yeah.
We are.
You want to know what's wild? Some of the scenes involving the trans kid got leaked.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at right now. Yeah, right here we've got the storyboard. It's on. Yeah, these are the storyboards with that character in them.
Well,
they
say. Well, you know what they say. It's just that you know what they say. It's like, it's what a relative of mine said last night. We're a cult, according to them.
Hold on, I gotta switch which screen I'm sharing. Just a second. It wasn't sharing the. We can't hear you, Steph.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had my mic muted. Well, I was going off on this because you can't win for losing. Win or lose, really. And it's a story about inclusion on a co-ed team, and you're gonna not even let the trans kid play at all.
They're not gonna let the trans kid exist. Is the thing,
right?
Of course not, because you
Sucks.
Yeah, but
well, one thing we do have a Transposition Sports tonight.
excellent.
Yeah.
Good. We got good news from Ember too, so we do have a pretty full show set up, all things considered. Yeah, it's the next thing on my agenda is actually kind of endearing. I don't know much about the Anglican Church, but they seem this movement seems pretty based. This is from the Telegraph. The Bible is pro-trans, Anglican campaign group claims. Guidance suggests not everyone in Holy Scripture is cisgender, and that some stories contain clear queer characters. So we got some biblical representation, guys. The Bible is pro-transgender, according to the guidance promoted by an Anglican campaign group. It claims that not everyone in the Bible is cisgender. They're gender at birth, and says that biblical stories contain some queer characters. The argument rests on the treatment of eunuchs in Scripture and women taking part in apparently masculine activities in the Bible. The guidance is contained in resources hosted on the website LGBT Faith UK. A link to the document states the Bible affirms trans, intersex, and queer people. The text begins by stating not everyone in the Bible is cisgender, nor is everyone in the Bible biologically or anatomically male or female. In the Bible, the clearest example of this are the eunuchs, who can be seen as biblical ancestors of trans. I actually don't like that. I don't like being compared to a eunuch. I'm nothing like a eunuch at all. Like, nothing about my existence in this world is comparable to a eunuch. That's just my personal feelings about it. So Anglican Church, just as far as I'm concerned, that's a swing and a miss.
Yeah, my feeling about this is it's really easy to. I think, and all kinds of people do this. They will take a Bible verse completely out of context and make it work. I mean, the story of Philip and the eunuch is an old one, and it does get cited, especially within Christian circles, as a call out to God's love for people who are different anatomically, sexually, etc., and so forth. And I'm not going to call it cherry picking. I'm going to call it putting things in taking things in a modern context that are not the same. And so you wind up with apologetics on every side of the issue. Some apologetics are for slavery, and the same argument gets made. Oh, those were different times. Slavery is still bad. So.
Oh, slavery's still.
Yeah,
going
I
on.
get it. And slavery is still going on.
It's called having a job.
It's also called being in prison. But there's all sorts of nuance here, and I have a hard time, especially with people who are hard atheists, who basically say, I just can't anymore. We've got to do away with God, got to do away with religion and all that stuff. I mean, I get it. Imagine no religion. It's easy if you try, no hell, etc.
Imagine.
But it's imagine. And I find that the thing that matters to me most is what people do with their beliefs. And if I applaud the Anglican or this group within the Anglican communion, believe me, not every group within the Anglican communion is buying this, but any person of faith who believes that God don't make no junk and is willing to stand for our common siblinghood and hold me and mine and everyone close in their heart, whether for the love of God or the love of humanity, they're my allies. And I want to try to convince them to do the best they can in that regard.
Yeah, it's like your speech that you gave at the Methodist Church. Is the churches
That's
and,
why I
and
do it.
religion are not our enemy on this front in any way, shape, or form. We actually would benefit from some acceptance from different church communities as a group of the population, as a portion of the human population. We're going to have trans people in all walks of life. You can either be a church that accepts them and adds them to their fold, or you can be a church that rejects them and loses another member over that. I mean, that's your choice as a church.
No, I happen to go to a church like that because
Yeah.
the pastor of my church is trans.
Mm-hmm. There's a few pastors out there that are trans or non-binary.
There are a lot more. There are a lot more than you realize. There's a lot more people who are. I mean, there's a whole site now called Queer Theology, which is dedicated to the Bible from a queer standpoint, talking to queer people, which is great, and which is awesome, and as a person, as a believer, as a Christian, it is good for starters to be able to be in a house where I can worship, where I can exercise my faith, without people who want to say I'm going to hell because of who I am. And I usually tell people that say that to me, you going to hell, I tell them, fine, I'll save you a seat. Or more so, they'll bury you if you're a bigot, they're going to bury you face. Riley Gaines will be buried face down. That way she knows where she's going.
So like the Church of England, right? It's like, if I'm reading this correctly, they are more accepting of transgender marriages than they are of gay marriages, because same-sex marriage is the problem, and if you transition, then you're golden, I guess. But
well, then what happened? Well, then I'm sorry, but then I mean,
that's
not
kind of
exactly it, because I mean, let's face it, T for T. I mean, we just had the trans power wedding of 2024 just happened, and that was a same-sex wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was. And see, here's the thing. You know, when I am, if there's one thing I do know, it's Scripture, and I know what Scripture says, and the one thing that, and when we think about it, let's really look at, I mean, if we look at the gospel says this. You know, the greatest commandments are love thy neighbor. Among the greatest commandments is love thy neighbor as thyself. Is that hard? Shouldn't be. I mean, in fact, we're going to be looking at that in Transposition Sports tonight, because we're going to take because I wasn't sure what to do this week, because we're preparing the All Carly team for the New Year's Eve, for our New Year's Eve romp coming up. It'll be the first show of the new year is the 2024 All Carly team. That'll be the first show of the new year. And the one thing that I got a request on is, people want to know more about this lawsuit. They want to know about the lawsuit, the petty political lawsuit. So I did a reworked version of that, along with a few other things, including also had somebody who asked me to revisit the Senate hearings last week. So we're going to be bringing those back out. But I mean, there's one thing I do want to talk about, and that's a certain president-elect who basically says on day one on a stroke of a pen, he basically wants to say that none of us are American, which is a far cry from what we're seeing in the Anglican Church right now. They're saying, like, you're welcome.
Hey, Carly, can you boost your volume at all? The chat's saying they can barely hear you.
I've got volume cranked right now, but I know what I could be doing. I've got this thing cranked right now. This is interesting.
Well, I have the gain boosted as high as we can in the room here, and the chat's saying they really can't hear you.
Well,
Usually
now let's
I'm
see.
the one that they can't hear.
Oh well now you got it. Now
Okay,
you got it.
No, we have one.
Yeah.
No, we have
Loud-
one little thing that's just
Loud and clear.
okay. Good. Now I can just clap. No, like I was saying. I mean, this is just
Apologize, everybody.
our. Like I said, our. If there's one thing that Scripture teaches us is love thy neighbor as thyself. I mean, and that's something that this churches that is something that the Anglican Church is actively living on, actively working with, which is a good thing. And it'd be nice, especially at this time of year, that people will really look at that and really look into that. I'm curious to one thing, and this is one I want to put out to people. I also want to put out to the people looking at our audience tonight. If you're trans, did you go home? And if so, how were you treated?
I will tell you that I did not go home, but I'm pretty far away from home to have had that option. But yeah, I imagine I would have had a place to go if I had decided to go home. I'm generally they're pretty accepting. My family has a struggle, if you will, of dead naming and misgendering me when I'm present. Consistently, and it makes it hard. It makes it hard to be around sometimes. So, being here where I am with my kind of found family down here, it's a lot different. They treat me like the person I am, not the person they think I should be.
That seems to be the thing right now. Everybody's so worried about, folks. Just, I mean, cis people. If you're out there, do you realize what the trans people in your life are about to walk into in the year ahead? I really
Seriously.
I really want you to think about that. I really want you to think about what are transgender people in your life, if you have them, think about what they're about to walk through in the next year. Forget the next year, in the next 100 days, to put in the presidential parlance. Because remember, again, you had the president-elect of the United States essentially say that on day one, with the stroke of a pen, I want to make you all persona non grata.
Well, you can try.
And
Hey, I just want to ask. I want to ask the chat. How's the volume situation with everybody right now? Just trying to make sure that the show is working for everybody out there. So, tell us in the chat how are we doing.
I'm reading Kalashia saying, yeah, we got a yearly Christmas card for my sister, Sis Love, and telling us we're going to hell. You send a message to your sister for me that if we're going to hell, we'll save her a place because she'll be there right with us. Because I know that bigotry is a damnable offense. So saith the Lord, and so saith we all.
Glacia says, and Maya Atkinson, hi, how you doing?
I don't know how.
You got it boosted great, and then it just faded right off. I don't know why.
I don't know what's going on here tonight because I've got.
There we go. Now
Now
it's
back.
much
I don't
better.
know.
Maybe it's
I
just
think
the
I know what
position
it
of
is.
the mic.
It's mic position. Okay,
There
here
we
go.
go.
Got like a lapel mic?
There we have it.
Down. Yeah, I have lavaliers now. So I go
Mhm.
full lavalier now because lavaliers are just so much better.
All right. And y'all ready for some cringe? Listen
Sweet.
to this. Listen to this
Some
cringy
cringe.
nonsense.
Some cringe. Some cringe. Are you about to say something? Are you about to give us some Brianna Wu news?
No, I'm about to give you some John Kennedy getting freaking saying some of the dumbest things you ever heard. Some of the most sexist
no,
things you ever heard too.
Oh, don't worry. We got some John Kennedy and transposition sports too.
Here we go.
A transgender woman is a biological male. Is that correct?
Yes.
And a biological
Thanks a
male
lot, Chuck.
is always going to have a physical and a physiological advantage competing in a collegiate sport against a biological female.
So if we understand what he's saying here at face value.
Wow.
John Kennedy thinks that if he went and competed at college sports, that he would have an advantage over all the women competing. That's what the man just said.
Isn't that true?
There's not a lot of research on it, but it's certainly debatable.
And I agree there with him.
I think it's debatable.
You don't think?
You mean with
think that a biological male
Just by
has an
saying there's
advantage
not a lot of
every
research
time
on it,
competing
it's
against a biological female?
Again, they want to put it.
Christ.
They want to put the onus on this whether they were assigned female at birth or assigned male at birth, as opposed to the individual, which is kind of weird because that's again saying that every man can beat every woman at every sport, regardless, no matter what the circumstances are. If things are handled fairly.
Who is the gentleman testifying? Because I'd like to show
The
him.
Charlie
NCAA.
Baker. It's the president of the NCAA, former Massachusetts Republican Governor Charlie Baker.
Oh, it's Charlie Baker. I got you. Oh my
Yeah.
God. You're a politician, dude. You don't know the research. You don't have to. Come on now. You talk to your medical staff? God damn it. Yeah, there's not an awful lot of research. There's tons of research on it. There's 160 pages in a review of all the research on advantages in elite sport of transgender women, specifically compiled by the Center for the Canadian Center for Ethics in Sport, published in 2022. Come on, Charlie, get with the program. The problem I have with allies, especially allies like Charlie Baker talking to whack jobs like this asshole, is that they don't understand the topic. And they really ought to brush up a little bit and not just go in and say, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, triggered. I'm a little triggered right now.
I don't
Yeah,
blame you because I said the same thing the minute Charlie said yes. See,
Yeah.
and that's like Trans 101. The first thing you got to say, because I've dealt with this before. Because I was on a panel discussion on a TV show with a conservative who was saying these things like, "Well, Carly, I want to speak to you first. You're talking about a transgender woman who is a biological male," and I was like, "Stop right there. First, the word you're looking for is first off, we're talking about women's sports, so there's no men involved. 1, 2, the word you're looking for is cisgender, not biological. See, biological is isn't even a medical term in this sense, in this context. It's a legal term in this context. And if you want more on that, I'm going to send you a link to a podcast that Chase Strangio did where Chase broke down what this is in the legal context, why biological is used by professional transphobes in the legal context. And it's very important that people understand that distinction. But first and foremost, whenever people tries to use that term biological, first off, governing bodies use the terms transgender and cisgender, and so should you. And look at Dickie D.
Yeah,
Are
this
you
is
about to
really
get-
short
are you
and
about to get us
sweet, and
Chucky?
it
Okay,
gets
you
the
about
whole
to get us
point
Chucky?
across.
All right.
Yeah.
Hit Chucky.
I'd like to ask you a question or two. How many athletes are there in the United States in NCAA schools?
510,000.
How many transgender athletes are you aware of?
Less than 10.
Less than 10
Yep.
out of 510,000?
Yep.
Short and sweet and to the point. That gets the point across right there. This is a smoke screen. There's not a serious issue here.
No, it's
keeping-
it's for guys like John Kennedy to get their nuts squeezed by their undies. It's ridiculous.
More culture war nonsense that's not really happens. The war on Christmas, the war on freaking Sismas, I guess is what we could call it. Yeah, but there's no
there was
significant number.
There was a super chat this afternoon on Takis. Somebody said, "Remember, Christmas without HRT is just Sismas."
That's true.
Pretty much.
That is absolutely true. So, and Dick didn't even have to say, "Oh, I'm up here standing up for trans people." He's up there just saying, "Hey, this is like a non-issue. This is stupid. Why are we focusing why are the taxpayers paying us, exonerable freaking amounts of money to parse these things into law, and we're up here talking about something that affects less than 10 people out of 500,000? Yeah, it's fear mongering, Kalasia, right?
And I'll say this, having covered a lot of this, that number is way less than 10. In fact, I will say this as from what we've confirmed at Outsports, last year there was 2 out. In the last academic year, there were 2 out trans athletes in the entire country, all divisions. I'm talking about the people that are out. There may be other people who are actually come to date. There are 3 out transgender athletes, and one of them does not perform in the gender that she identifies in. She's a transgender woman who plays on a man's team. Plays water polo at Iona. The other ones was a tennis player in Division II at Lewis University, and Sadie Schreiner in Division III at RIT. That was it. That's it.
Was it Isaac? Isaac begins with an M. It was a
About
swimmer.
Isaac Hennig graduated in 23.
Right.
I'm talking about this last.
No, I
academic
understand,
year.
but I'm just saying. I think he competed at least in part of his transition on the women's team. Am I correct?
Well, all of it
Yeah,
except for senior
that's
year.
all.
Senior year. he
All of it
decided,
except
like,
for senior year. That's
yeah.
what I think. Yeah, that's
Senior year, he started T after junior year and decided I'm going to compete as who I am. Can you believe it's like this coming year? It'll be 3 years since that whole 3 years.
Yes, I
since
can.
That entire controversy.
Yes, I certainly can. Feels like a lifetime.
Although I have a feeling that we're going to see that controversy again. We may see
And
that
again,
controversy come
and again.
revisited. It's going to be revisited in track and field.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be revisited most likely in track and field because Sadie Schreiner's that good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Sadie's that good.
And you should follow Sadie Schreiner on Instagram because she's also very entertaining and makes awesome art. So
yeah. Yes, and also just a reminder here at Transposition Sports and at the Char Sports One YouTube site, we have the interview with her. In fact, we ran a repackaged version of it on Christmas night. We ran a repackaged version of it where we ran both interviews, the Schreiner interview and the CC Telfer interview, because of the link between those two athletes. We ran that again, and that's something we're going to be doing all the way up to New Year's. Is we're going to be running some of our best. Transposition Sports will be running some of our best from this year, and some new stuff that we have. In fact,
got the Maven Maurer interview that you did on Christmas Eve. I was doing the marathon thing at the time, but so I didn't get to watch it live. But if anybody missed that, it's up on Char Sports. The full interview, you watched part of it here last week. Watch the full interview over there on Carly's channel.
It was an excellent interview, and just a fascinating story of all that she went through to find herself and to be herself.
Mm-hmm.
People often don't realize what it. I think that's the one, and like I said, and that's been one of the great things about this year for me, because I'm looking back at my year. This has been the best creative year of my career as a journalist in many ways. And I think it's been my most impactful. And in part, I have Transposition Sports to thank for. I have Transpositions to thank for that, because if we've gotten some opportunity to put some great things together, there's not many places where we could have like that Maven Maurer conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, the best is yet to come, especially in this next year. The best is yet to come.
And Carly, if I just want to tell everybody watching right now, everybody who might see this in the future, if you want to see more of this kind of work, I encourage you to support it. Join our Patreon.
It's right down there.
Right down there.
It'll be a special snowflake. Pretty cheap.
Links in the description and all of that. And of course, like the channel, like the show, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, help us out here, because this stuff we'd like to do we're going to maybe, if we have a little bit of time, we're maybe going to try a call-in again. But we'd like to move into that realm occasionally, not make it the focus of the show, but definitely occasionally have an opportunity to interact with folks and join our Discord, where you can do that on a more regular basis. So
also, if you join the Patreon, it helps us upgrade our technology. It may even put us in position to travel to do stories.
There we go.
Because that's something I'm going to be starting in 2025 as a Patreon, with the express purpose of, hey, if there's things we want to cover in the trans world, send me to do it. Because I want to, because now more, and again, the thing I try to do with the reporting I do is, in effect, to humanize my community, because we know the major outlets aren't going to do it. The major media outlets are not going to do it. The major media outlets are more than in the tank for us to be pushed in closets. the major media outlets are already lining up. Look at the way that they're covering for example, Luigi Mangione.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how they're covering this. They are covering this on one hand, trying to drum up sympathy for the CEO, and on the other hand, completely ignoring the real story that 40 years ago, journalists would be covering that real story. How did we get here? How do we get to the point where literally average person feels so screwed over by the system that they decide to make turn a Hollywood movie script into real life? And why aren't we talking about that? And it's the same thing with trans issues. I mean, it's the same thing with trans issues. Everybody wants to talk about us and demonize us, but nobody wants to talk to us and humanize us. We're out here, I believe, I mean, there was someone who said it best, that we are humanizing robots, but we want to dehumanize trans people. What's up with that?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
are we ready for some good news from Ember?
Do we have anything else we want to cover in the roundtable? Can we maybe get some good news from Ember?
I did have hold on. I did have something else since you mentioned.
All right, let's
Brianna
do that.
Let's one last piece. It's just this is just leopards eating your face irony right here.
Yeah.
So Brianna Wu posted this where she said, "I know there's an angry crowd that will never believe trans women are admittedly a weird variation of women.
The leopards would eat my face."
But for people in the middle, here's 25 minutes of the Dollcast show just talking about doing our hair. Can anybody honestly say we would make sense living as men? You know, that's performing womanhood, I guess. That is what Brianna Wu's down to is now. Am I doing it? Am I doing it right, Daddy? Am I a girl enough for you now?
And look who can honestly say no. You're
Yep. Then you got
Let's go.
The one and only J.K. Rowling had to chime in. Never forget, gender identity is about sex stereotypes, but playing around with your hair proves you're not a man. Now, Brianna Wu, she thinks she's doing this like dancing on the fence thing that she thinks she can pull off, which she really can't. So here's how she's responded to this. Nice 4 paragraphs here. Miss Rowling, first of all, our show is about moderate transpositions. We're the transpositions. You're the Dollcast. Don't get it twisted. We're the good guys. You're the villains, Brianna. We don't support trans women in sports. We have severe reservations about the trans fringe. We don't like the way it's medicalizing children, particularly young girls. And that's considering 2 of our hosts transitioned as minors. Because the Dollcast, I think it's Cadigan, Wu, I don't know who else is on there. There's a few of them. The clip is about 4 trans women having
the pick-me girls. That's all you can say.
The clip is about 4 trans women having the kind of conversations most women have. We're trying to get people like you to see our humanity. None of us would be happy if you forced us to live as men. There's a political project pushing everyone to the extremes right now. I've taken a lot of heat denouncing the trans fringe, the same people that have sent you death threats. Neither of us have to be part of it. We really can find a solution that works for everyone. You are welcome on the Dollcast show anytime. I'm sure J.K. Rowling's really anxious to go on a show with you, Brianna. I imagine that's just, she won't even pay attention to Glinner, and Glinner's on her team. I don't think she's going to give you the time of day, other than using you as an example of why she thinks that none of us will ever be a woman, because she's just awful. You can't reach her, and you need to stop being such a thorn in the side of the trans community by making it seem like there's even a portion of us that agree with you. You are like a rare freaking talk about the trans fringe. You and Kelly and Blair White and Buck Angel, you're the trans fringe, not us. We're the trans mainstream. So don't get it twisted, ladies. All right, we're gonna pop right into some good news now, okay? Because now that we've got that Brianna Wu segment out of the way, Ember sent us something to share with the community. So let's see. Here we go.
Good news, everyone! Tonight, a trans art exhibit opens in India. A new nonprofit gears up to help refugees, and a trans champion star is on the rise. Good news starts right now. Happy holidays, everyone. As of broadcast day, we have 25 days until January 20th. It took me 23 days to get my passport from application to it showing up in my mailbox. So there is still time. If you're still in the US, make sure you get yours ASAP. You can find a short how-to video right here on the Transpositions. First up, we are traveling to India's west coast for a story about a teen who understands the intersection of art and inclusion. This is a translated news story from Mumbai, the Free Press Journal. Reina Hazari curates exhibition of transgender artists. At just 16 years old, Reina brings transgender and mainstream artists together in a unique exhibition, redefining the boundaries of inclusion and creativity. 16-year-old Reina Hazarti was always intrigued by the transgender folks she saw at the traffic signals, railway stations, and so on. She often wondered what made them tick and was concerned about their well-being. The young one didn't know what she could do, but always wanted to do something. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to feature this story isn't just because of the age of the protagonist, which itself is quite exceptional, but because it also features several of the art pieces in the exhibition. And that's really freaking cool. Here's one of them. 2 years ago, Reina was introduced to the Alert Citizen Forum by her arts teacher and mentor in the field, Satyendra Rain of the Young Art Foundation. My apologies if I'm sure I'm mispronouncing the hell out of these. We're doing our best here, folks. While working on her project with the forum, she met a few trans folks, and that was just the beginning of activity with them for her. And here's another one of the pieces. I see what I love about these is that they show. This one clearly has several facets. What's really in the eyes, a general hinting of trans colors, and all of them are about periods of transformation and the glorious beauty that can come out of that. It's so wonderful. Today, she's curated an exhibition, Falak, where 9 trans artists are showcasing their work with some known mainstream artists. And this is not all that she's done. During the COVID times, she says, I had read up a lot about the injustices that trans people face and neglect when it comes to healthcare facilities or education. So I spoke to my parents and obviously my mentor, Satan Sir, about it. I want to do something to help them feel more included. Introduced to them, she said. Some of the remember, this is India, so there's huge cultural elements from Hindu culture, from Buddhism, and so forth. But there's clear trans symbolism here as well, and I find that so cool. I'm an art nerd, what can I say? This is not the first time Reina has done an art project with the transgender community. Last year, during Pride Month, Reina got trans artists to paint umbrellas, which were later distributed by the foundation among the needy. However, an exhibition of this scale is a little different from a few umbrellas. It also involved getting other mainstream artists interested. Not only that, but the talent also had to be tapped amongst trans folks. Quote, I've been in constant touch with the community ever since I first met them nearly 2 years ago. Therefore, it was not so difficult, Raina says. We, Satan Sir and I, invited sketches and doodles from artists who had participated in the umbrella drive. We received many of those. It was from those sketches and doodles that we chose the 9 artists. You have to see the work to believe it. They are so talented. And we're seeing quite a bit of that here on this post, which is just, I mean, if you walked into an art exhibit and you saw this, doesn't it draw you in and make you think about what the artist is trying to say and imagine the possibilities? Doesn't it make you feel something? Which is the point of art, to evoke an emotional and engaged response. The aim of FLAC, the art show, is inclusivity. Was it difficult to get the mainstream artists involved in this activity? Quote, not at all, says Raina. Most of the artists whom we approached were all excited about the project. Some called on others saying that they wanted to participate in this exhibition because they wanted to contribute toward the cause. What motivated her to curate such an exhibition? Quote, I think art is such an important medium of connecting people. Throughout my life, I've always found it as a medium of expressing myself. I think it can say so much more than words can. I wanted to share and use this for everyone, Raina said. I was a little scared to take up this initiative because obviously they've gone through so much in their lives. For them, it's hard to open up to people. They're treated like they're not part of our society, but they're so nice and so loving. And once they open up to you, that's really really real, incredible individuals. And I wanted the society to see that through their art. It was Raina's fascination with art that led her to RAIN and then to the trans community. How and when did she fall in love with this creative form? Quote, I've been doodling since childhood, informs Raina. I've always just looked to art like find solace, and I've just always painted and doodled all my life. And it was lucky that my parents supported me. Though there's nobody else from the family who's interested in arts, they wholeheartedly supported me and helped me find a mentor in Satyan Sir. Raina wants to continue her art education after her 12th boards, that would be high school for those of us in the US, graduation from high school, and she wants to continue to support the trans population of Mumbai. Next, we're off to the Rockies to learn about a new nonprofit helping trans people escape to a safer state. From Denver Channel 7, a nonprofit helps trans people who don't feel safe where they live move to Colorado. The Transcontinental Pipeline saw more than 400 requests for help following the November election. Since President-elect Donald Trump's re-election in November, a Denver nonprofit has been inundated with requests for help. The TCP helps trans people who don't feel safe in the states where they live move to Colorado, where protections are stronger. The nonprofit helps with the costs and logistics of moving and connects participants with housing in the Denver metro, offering up to a month of free rent through its housing network. Kiera Richards started TCP 8 months ago out of need, and the dating app Tinder. Quote, purely need-based, mostly out of Tinder, actually. My friends and I started seeing a lot of people coming into town saying, I'm new here, I don't know anyone. And Tinder is one of the first places people go. How else do you make connections, I guess? So we started name trading. That developed into a mutual aid network. And that developed into a nonprofit. And here we are. The group received 22 requests for relocation help in October. Following the election, TPC saw more than 400 requests, according to Richards, and has a waiting list of more than 1,000. Quote, I've seen families with middle schoolers. The oldest I've seen, I believe, was mid-70s. All identities, All races, religions, creeds, just every walk of life, said Richards. We have people reaching out saying they were recently a victim of a hate crime and fearing for their lives. We have people reaching out saying we've been planning this for a minute. We have a couple of questions. It really runs the gamut, everything in between. Richards said TCP is the first nonprofit of its kind that she's aware of in the United States. I should clarify, there is a similar organization based in Canada. I believe it's called the Rainbow Railroad. We've spoken about that in previous episodes. TCP and its 12 volunteers have successfully relocated 100 people so far, according to Richards. And last for today, we are heading to the East Coast to learn more about the first trans attorney to argue before the U.S. Supreme Court. This is from Boston.com. Meet the Newton native who became the first transgender lawyer to argue before the Supreme Court. How rude. On December 4th, Chase Strangio, a Newton native, became the first known transgender person to argue before the Supreme Court, the first out person for sure. On a recent day in early December, Northeastern University law students gathered in a classroom in Boston to listen to a broadcast of a U.S. Supreme Court case's oral arguments. The high-profile case, the students learned, challenges a Tennessee law banning gender-affirming health care for trans minors and imposes civil penalties on doctors who violate those restrictions. Similar laws have been passed in several other states. A few hundred miles south of Boston, American Civil Liberties Union attorney Chase Strangio stood before the Supreme Court justices in Washington, D.C., asserting that the transgender Tennessee law violates the equal protections rights of transgender adolescents. That day, Strangio became the first open transgender person to argue before the highest court in the United States. Quote, I don't think he'll stop fighting until he's out of breath, Strangio's former Northeastern University law professor, Libby Adler, told Boston.com. He's model for what law students are training for and what they can go out there and do. Strangio grew up in Newton in what he described as an upper middle-class suburban community. For his brother, Noah Strangio, it was an idyllic place to grow up. I really think I struggled as a kid and was really lost, Chase Strangio told Boston.com. I had a fire inside me that I knew would eventually find its way out, but I suffered and stressed a lot before it did. Chase, 4 years ahead of his brother in school, went to Newton North High, where he was an avid soccer player. Noah attended Newton South. The family of four was paired off. Chase was constantly with their mother, Joan, while Noah was with their father, Mark. Quote, my mom would often be taking Chase to soccer games, Noah told Boston.com. On the average weekday, my dad and I would go on hikes and go and see movies. Chase's parents divorced when he was in his sophomore year of high school. Joan, a former social worker, remained a constant presence in her children's lives. Meanwhile, Chase's father remarried. Tensions brewed, and Chase never stayed with his brother at their father's house, Noah recalled, and the two fought often. Quote, he would stop by our house and they would have heated discussions, Noah remembered. For Chase, that certainly created, I would say, an even further wedge between them. For years, Chase challenged his father on his political views, but ultimately decided to stop discussing the subject with him. Quote, my way of approaching it is not to really talk about it, he said. It continues to be one of the things that I just simply don't understand, but don't really engage in regular exchanges about. After high school, Strangio was ready to leave New England. He packed his bags and shipped off to Grinnell College, a private liberal arts school in the Midwest. In 2004, he moved back to Boston and worked at LGBTQ Advocates and Defenders for several years before enrolling in law school at Northeastern. But Strangio worried he might never be seen as a legitimate courtroom advocate. His fear, he wrote in a recent New York Times op-ed, was reinforced during his first year in law school. Quote, one of my law school professors at Northeastern Northeastern told our class that we need to abide by the traditional gender norms in court, he wrote. She instructed that women should wear skirts to appear before juries, and after a presentation in class, she told me I was too soft-spoken to be seen as an effective male advocate. But Strangio kept his head up. Quote, it gave me a very negative feeling of my first year of law school overall, he told Boston.com. But as in all institutional aspects of life, you will encounter people who are bringing in the overall biases and power dynamics of the professions and society in which you're engaging. And that was what happened in my first year. While pursuing his law study, Strangio lived in Jamaica Plain, where he said he found comfort in the neighborhood's queer community. After his first year, things got better. He served as a research assistant on a clinical project to support LGBTQ youth for Professor Libby Adler. Over the course of his studies, the two developed a close relationship. As a student, Adler said Strangio suffered from what she described as chronic dissatisfaction. Quote, he's always got his eye on who's suffering and who's left behind, Adler said. He doesn't rest. Strangio came out as transgender while he was attending Northeastern and had access to medical care that he said made him feel more at home in his body. We talk about this care as life-saving, he said. To be alive also means to have the life you want to lead. After graduating from Northeastern in 2010, Strangio secured a fellowship at the Sylvia Rivera Law Project, where he co-founded the Lorena Borjas Community Fund, which provides bail assistance for LGBTQ immigrants. Strangio spoke about the fund during his job interview for the ACLU. While he was younger than most other applicants, James Essex of the ACLU said Strangio's initiative to create the fund won him over. Quote, it's one thing to have an idea, another to make it happen, Essex told Boston.com. That's exactly the kind of initiative that I prize. Essex and Strangio now direct the ACLU LGBTQ and HIV rights project together. Since he started in 2013, Strangio has worked on his fair share of cases at the ACLU, including a challenge to North Carolina's law prohibiting transgender people from accessing restrooms and Donald Trump's ban on trans service members from serving in the military. Quote, in terms of what it means to be a trans person litigating trans cases, I think, of course, I have a personal connection to the material impact of the work, and I also can relate to my clients' experiences to an extent, he said. We're all bringing our subjectivity to bear in our interpretation of the law and our interests in how any one or another legal problem impacts us. Strangio also defended whistleblower Chelsea Manning, whom you may recall participated in the recent bathroom sit-ins in Washington, D.C. Chelsea Manning, a transgender woman who was arrested for disclosing classified documents about the U.S. government to WikiLeaks. While working on Manning's case, he met documentary filmmaker Nadia Holgren. The two became fast friends. Quote, his brain is just very sophisticated in the way he thinks and problem solves, Holgren told Boston.com. At the same time, he is self-deprecating, down-to-earth, funny, fun, caring. There's not a lot of people like that. In 2016, Strangio wrote a letter to then President Barack Obama pleading for Manning's release. Strangio's calls were answered when Obama commuted most of Manning's remaining sentence the following year. Holgren was assigned to document Strangio's work representing Manning in the film XY Chelsea, including their first meeting at a military prison in Kansas City. Quote, he's so magnetic, Holgren said of Strangio. I think people don't intend on him being the center of a story, and the minute they meet him, it's just like, it's so obvious. On the day of his oral argument at the Supreme Court, Strangio felt at ease. He had reread all the briefs and relevant cases and regularly spoke out loud to himself, practicing hypothetical answers to his own hypothetical questions. Quote, at that point, I felt like I knew what I knew, so I was ready to do it and to have it be done, he said. About 2 weeks before his court case, Strangio spoke on the phone with his brother for an hour and a half. They talked about everything, to movies, to parenting, to the election. Strangio sounded noticeably relaxed, a change that Noah observed in his brother over the years in the way he came to approach his work. On the long-awaited day, Strangio traveled to the court alone. He recalled meeting a colleague at security and talking with the opposing counsel before it was his turn to make his case. During the argument itself, you are so present, you almost don't know what is happening, he said. You're so connected to the exchanges. Noah planned to be in the room with Chase while he spoke before the court, but things took an unexpected turn when his wife went into labor with their second child the day before, 3 weeks early. The brothers caught up on the phone the following day. Quote, half the conversation was about me. Chase asked me about the baby and the birth and how my toddler was doing, Noah recalled. There was a level of zen or serenity from Chase. The argument itself went as expected. Chase told his brother, but the most memorable moment of the day, Chase said, took place outside the courtroom. Quote, I think really the most powerful part for me was coming out of the courtroom to the rally outside, to seeing trans young people and their parents, and seeing so many members of the community just out in the cold, reveling in the joy of just being together, being alive, and being able to be who they are, he said. It was a really beautiful rally, and it gave me a lot of hope for the future. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe. Transpositions Weekly is the first and only trans news show in the universe, and we need your help to keep this show going. Contribute at patreon.com/TheTransPositions. Spread the word all over social media to let people know we're here, and tell us what stories matter to you by joining the community on Discord. Discord, of course, is where the memes live, and our meme of the week was posted by the one and only Bumblebee. And if you want to type with maximum fabulousness, join us. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people that you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about that in the Discord as well. For the Transpositions, I've been Ember Belrad.
Well, what better fine food to eat in sea conditions like that than our friends at Chick-fil-A? How about that? Let's take a look at this little thing here. This is absolutely crazy. My, oh my, oh my, oh my. Let's see. I'm trying to get this. Yeah, can't really. This doesn't work all that. But anyway, I hope y'all can see that Chick-fil-A apparently Thursday. This broke a week ago today. So, Christmas week. Chick-fil-A mounts a PR campaign to push back against its anti-LGBTQ reputation. Guess I better accept the cookies. Yeah, I'll take your cookies, Chick-fil-A. In 2019, Christian chicken chain Chick-fil-A had high hopes of expanding their chicken Sammy empire. Wow. To the UK. Within months, they were out of business in the British Isles. LGBTQ plus protests overwhelmed the first of two locations in Reading, just west of London, where a call for the company to clock off over their support of anti-LGBTQ plus organizations resonated with Britons. A second spot in the chain claimed was a pop-up in a posh hotel in the Scottish Highlands, closed not long after. Chick-fil-A isn't going to be happy with his Texas restaurants. Let's see. Oh, okay, right, great. That's an ad or related news. Now the chicken purveyor is back for a second British invasion and prepared to overwhelm the opposition with plans to open 5 stores simultaneously. Ha! If we can't do them piecemeal, we'll overwhelm them, baffle them with chicken breast. This time they're backed by a well-oiled PR team and hope the imprimatur of a respected LGBTQ plus rights organization will help grease their way. I expect so, especially if it's Chick-fil-A. Grease their way into Britain's hearts by way of their stomachs. Stick with the fish and chips. That PR effort is already underway, as seen in an interview with Peter Bachman, a retail food consultant in The Telegraph. I'm surprised it wasn't in the Daily Mail, Britain's conservative daily. I suspect that a bit of the steam has gone out of the LGBT thing, Bachman told the right-wing outlet, staying ahead of the issue. There may be the odd protester, and of course, according to Bachman and company, we're all odd, but that's where you got to go. But if they have got armies of PR people laser focused on that, then I suspect it may be okay. The $20 chicken behemoth we've got velociraptors working for these people, privately owned and managed by the devout Kathy family from headquarters in Atlanta, plans to launch 5 chicken stores in 2025 across London, Liverpool, Leeds, and in Belfast, Northern Ireland, where it will have 2 locations. Well, I guess. Chick-fil-A predicts a $100 million investment in the UK over the next 10 years with 500 employees by 2027. The family-owned company has a long and ignoble history of supporting anti-LGBTQ plus organizations. Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A and the chairman's father, donated money to anti-gay groups like the Marriage and Family Foundation, the Georgia Family Council, and the ex-gay therapy group Exodus International. Yeah, let's part that C again. As recently as 2017, Chick-fil-A donated $1.8 million to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, a group that opposes same-sex marriage, and to the Salvation Army, a group with its own history of anti-LGBTQ actions. The company has faced repercussions for its donations, getting forced out of college campuses and airports, and protests in schools and in Canada. At the same time, conservatives made Chick-fil-A a symbol of their fight against LGBTQ plus equality. Imagine having a chicken sandwich as your fucking symbol for your political nonsense. Oh my goodness. Do I really need to read much more? Yeah. Okay, right. So look, this is how this stuff starts. I love this. It goes on with a whole thing about you know, how it could be just sort of saying surrendering to anti-Christian hate groups, and Ted Cruz badly lost its way. But guess what? Money talks. You become the bullshit walking, Ted, Mike. The far right caught up with Chick-fil-A's DEI initiatives 4 years later when they declared the family-owned business had gone woke, along with Bud Light. A raft of other businesses targeted in the DEI backlash. Now the company is exploiting the fallout from their efforts at moderation in their push across the Atlantic. Oh my God. Brian Molinius, a former chief of staff in the House of Representatives, is leading up the company's PR offensive. There are a lot of misconceptions about Chick-fil-A. If you look at our anti-discrimination policy and read through it, it's very all-encompassing. My goodness. We frequently have conversations with companies and organizations at various stages on their journey to becoming more inclusive workplaces for their employees, including those who are considering locations in the UK, the representative said. We have had some recent conversations with Chick-fil-A about the training and services we could provide to support the company on this journey. Well, all right. So if the chickies if the chickies are sincere, good. Pass the tartar sauce all over it. But if it's a smokescreen, and I suspect it might be, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Good news, bad news. Has Chick-fil-A found its way? Are they willing to embrace the gay? We shall see. For the Transpositions, I'm Stephanie Helms.
Right. Well, thank you so much for that reporting there, Stephanie. I don't know if you want to come back up on a screen and chat with me for a little bit while we the sports segment is just right around the corner. We're just going to give you all some quick updates on what to expect in the upcoming year, because we're going to try to be here for you at least once a week, doing the Transpositions Weekly, doing this show, keeping you up to date on the news, in the sports and everything. And then we're also trying to establish a call-in show where you can call and kind of give us your thoughts, ask us your questions, give us your feedback, and as a standalone show. We also have the intentions of taking calls at the end of the Transpositions Weekly starting next year. We aren't set up to do that right now, but we will have situations where you can call and talk about whatever we've reported on for the night. Give us your feedback, give us your thoughts, ask your questions. If you think that we've misrepresented the story, you can come at us. If you agree with us, let us know. We are welcoming spicy calls. We are welcoming friendly fire too from our friends and allies if we step in the wrong direction. So absolutely, I'm not perfect.
You know, step in it every now and again, and as long as it's spicy chicken, we'll take the call.
Yeah, spicy chicken is what we just broke down. I hope that some other of these transphobic companies will follow in suit, or these, I guess, homophobic companies is a better description, because they just hate all gay people. But like Hobby Lobby could get in line for that. Wouldn't still get an error on the file, but from you, Carly, but it may have to load first. I'm not sure. It's not doing the regular thing that Dropbox does, though. It's giving me a 404 error, or no, error 400, not 404.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I got the same thing.
Not to focus too much on how the sausage is made, but when we do call in shows, there will generally we'll try to do a theme, like a topic that we want you to call in and talk about. But for the first couple of shows, we're just going to keep it pretty loose. We're going to keep it pretty open to any kind of topic, just to see what kind of traction we can get, see what kind of interest we can spurn in reaching out to us and having a conversation. And we'll probably pare it down so you're only having to engage one or two of us at a time, not the whole TransPositions crew coming at you at the same time, of course.
The gauntlet.
Yeah, we run the gauntlet. That reminds me, I need to do my monthly email to Hobby Lobby asking for more rainbow themed supplies. Yeah.
Trish, we're going to have to do this thing the hard way.
Do it the hard way.
Yeah.
You can
share from the screen and let's roll with it.
All right.
I don't know what Dropbox's problem is tonight.
Yeah, it said it wasn't you. It said Dropbox is having some kind of error, so I don't think it was anything you did.
Well, either way, we've got the thing. If
you got the file, it could.
We have the file.
You've got the file. You can share.
We have the file ready to fly. So
yeah, let's roll.
It's ready to fly. When you're ready to launch it, I'm ready to launch it.
Let's go, Carly. Hit it. That was inverted. Did you see that? How I switched around?
I did see that.
Usually it's the other way around.
Clever.
Maybe. There it is.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine.
Dad?
Before you say anything, I just want to apologize for what I said this morning. I've been doing a lot of thinking. If you want to change your name, if you want to wear a dress.
It's a skirt, Dad.
Skirt? I don't know the kind of support you need, but let's get you some for all this transgender stuff.
Wait. Are you serious? Dad, what is this?
Oh, this is me supporting you. This is me saying I love you. This is me not losing you.
Love you, Dad.
Love you. Holly.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Hello again, everybody, and happy holidays from all of us at Transposition Sports. I'm Carly Chardonnay-Webb. Tonight we're going to take another look at a deep dive we gave you back in October through the prism of more recent events. Remember last week on Transposition Sports, we told you about the Senate hearings on collegiate sports betting that turned into yet another session of Slap Around Transgender Americans, brought to you by who else? The Republicans. Oh, come on now. Sing it if you know it.
Transphobia for a stronger America.
Why do you support allowing transgender women who are biological males to compete against non-transgender biological females?
Over the course of the past 2 years, 5 federal court cases involving this question, let me finish. 5 federal judges have all sided with participation as the standard.
Transgender women who are biological males are not going to be allowed to compete against non-transgender women who are biological female. Boom, done. Why don't you take that position, Charlie?
Because federal courts have already taken the position that they do have the right to compete.
Yeah,
5 times in the past year and a
You can disagree and
half.
be sued. Why don't you demonstrate some leadership?
I would love to work with you folks on creating clarity around this question.
I'm sorry, but look, I'm sure the NCAA is a good organization. I just can't figure out what you folks are good for.
A total of 5 teams, 5 women's volleyball teams: Wyoming, Southern Utah, Utah State, Nevada, and Boise State all had to forfeit 7 games in their conference play, NCAA conference play this past year, women's teams, because a biological male, under your rules, was playing on a rival's team. How is that not denying them the benefits of the sport? Why is this fair to women?
And when that issue went to federal court, the judge sided with participation.
No, the NCAA did not go to court.
No,
that is not true.
The federal judge made the decision with respect to the issue you just raised.
Your rules have not been tried in federal court, and your rules explicitly permit biological males in women's sports.
Oh, of course, not to be outdone is what you heard last weekend from who else? Who does transphobia better than? Here's Donnie.
With the stroke of my pen on day one, we're going to stop the transgender lunacy. And I will sign executive orders to end child sexual mutilation, get transgender out of the military and out of our elementary schools and middle schools and high schools. And we will keep men out of women's sports. And that will likewise be done on day one. Should I do day 1, day 2, or day 3? How about day 1? Right? Under the Trump administration, it will be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female.
Now, amid all this hysteria, there's a fact. And NCAA President Charlie Baker at those same hearings layeth the facts down.
How many athletes are there in the United States in NCAA schools?
510,000.
How many transgender athletes are you aware of?
Less than 10.
less than 10
Yep.
out of 510,000.
Yep.
Are you governed when it comes to the policy of the NCAA by state law?
Of course.
So if 25 of the 50 states currently say that transgender children can play in sports according to their gender identity, you're bound by that standard?
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to say on this subject?
I think part of our challenge is dealing with a very murky set of court decisions and at the state and federal level around this issue, which creates a certain lack of clarity around our policy, because our policy ultimately needs to comply with federal policy. Which is why guidance either on the regulatory side or on the statutory side would be very helpful.
With that in mind, let's take a look at something that we've seen amid this political firestorm. Because you know about the $215 million campaign ad buy brought to you by who else? The Republicans. No, we're not singing the song again. And in the middle of that, there's a lawsuit. A lawsuit brought by a group of 19 former and current college athletes that's being financed and powered by a group called the Independent Council on Women's Sports, or as I like to call them, Karens Against Women's Sports, because we don't really care about women's sports. We're just here for the transphobia. There's a group of 19 plaintiffs. You could call them the Nasty 19. And I'm pretty sure you heard about the lead plaintiff in the case.
I don't want to be considered a bigot or a transphobe.
She tied for 5th place and now she'll cause trouble. Riley Gaines is there. Riley Gaines. A real American transphobe. Riley Gaines is there. It's been 2 years, she's still jealous of Leah, and the trophies both look the same. Showed a transphobic ass for all to see, and Leah Thomas lives in her head rent-free. Riley Gaines. A real American transphobe. Riley Gaines is there. Riley Gaines is the mouthpiece of conservative America's anti-transgender special mission force. Her purpose? Help take rights away from transgender Americans. All because she finished 5th at NCAA's and became a spoil sport loser. She won't shut her mouth, she's a well-paid bigot, and Riley does not care. Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines.
Of course Riley Gaines is a part of this. The former University of Kentucky All-American, best known for her anti-trans activism, has spent a lot of time trying to sell herself as an athlete supporting athletes. We know her original backstory: 2022 NCAA Division I Swim Championship, 200-yard freestyle, tied for 5th with Leah Thomas. Yeah, that Leah Thomas. It is this moment that spurred the lawsuit, and with it, one of its more glaring mandates that the lawsuit wins. They seek to not only force a total ban on transgender women in competing in collegiate athletics, they ask for all results by trans women in NCAA competition to be retroactively scrubbed. Now that would take away Thomas's championship and CC Telfer's 2019 Division II track title. It would also affect the recent success of student athletes such as now graduated tennis player Brooklyn Ross of Lewis University and active Rochester Institute of Technology track athlete Sadie Schreiner. Now, in stark contrast to this present pettiness is what Gaines said 2 years ago in an interview with journalist Christina Konworski. I never felt uncomfortable around Leah or because of Leah. It wasn't because of Leah specifically. Now, fast forward 2 months later. She had a different tune to sing.
It didn't make sense to me because obviously being at elite level, you know other elite swimmers. And so to see the name Leah Thomas, who was a senior, it just blew my mind. I wasn't sure who this person was. But it wasn't until an article came out on SwimSwam, I'm sure all the swimmers here are familiar with SwimSwam, that clarified that Leah was formerly Will Thomas, which was a male who swam for 3 years on the men's side at UPenn. I was shocked, but honestly, at this point, I didn't think too much of it in regards to still having my chance to win a national title, because I thought there's no way that the NCAA would allow Thomas to compete with the females. It honestly, truly didn't cross my mind that that would even be a possibility. But of course, I was proven very wrong. But I personally witness and feel the effect this competition had on not only myself, but all the female athletes at that meet. I know it's impossible to speak for everyone on that pool deck, but I can attest to the number of tears shed by 9th and 17th place finishers who miss being an All-American, which is, I mean, an incredible honor, by one place. The extreme discomfort in the locker room, the talk of anger and frustration from the girls who had worked so hard and sacrificed so much to get to this moment. And another thing I just realized over the last couple of days at a dinner with Kim and Marshy in attendance as well. We were actually in DC, and this was the day that the Biden administration rewrote Title IX and obviously redefined sex to mean gender identity. But in regards to the locker room situation, it is now sexual assault to refer to a transgender swimmer by the pronouns they don't go by. But it is not sexual assault for Leah, who has different parts than everyone else at that meet, to be in our locker room.
Gaines has links to a number of right-wing groups, and last year had a foundation set up under the umbrella of the Leadership Institute, a conservative anti-LGBTQ think tank. She is an ambassador to both the Independent Women's Forum and the Concerned Women for America. Hardly bipartisan organizations. She has spent part of 2024 alongside the Icons group, actively staging protests and harassing high school and even middle school transgender girls who just want to compete in sports. They even got a Republican candidate for governor of West Virginia, now governor-elect, to say this about a 13-year-old trans girl in West Virginia.
You have people, this came up in Bridgeport recently, that someone is doing a shot put. I praised the little girls who walked off and didn't compete because they have to face a male. You don't want little girls to be facing hulking males in the locker room.
During the 2022 election cycle, Gaines was in demand on the campaign hustling. She even did a number of ads for Republican candidates. Many of them lost. She's even made her opinions known on issues beyond sports in setting up for 2024.
I've always been my whole life, like I would say before being conservative, I've always been a Christian. And so my values as a Christian align more conservative. But what I've noticed these past 2 years, I've been really eye-opened to the amount of corruption, to the amount of string pulling, to the amount of really crazy people on both sides. So we talk a lot about the left because they don't try and mask theirs, at least the like very extreme radical left, like those protesters or the people who protest me, which like psycho.
And she has a group of acolytes, such as former UK teammate Catherine Wheeler, who's an ambassador for the Riley Gaines Foundation. Now, both Gaines and the conservative women's group she works with were on hands last fall when a group of members of the Roanoke College women's swim team held a protest press conference after a transgender woman student athlete petitioned to try out for the team and then later withdrew it. Now that prompted the school to adopt the NCAA's then upcoming ban on transgender women. Now that ban has been tabled again as of this current academic year. 7 members of that team were a part of this lawsuit. One of the members of the unit, then junior team captain Lily Mullins, qualified for the NCAA Division III Nationals in the 100-yard backstroke in 2024. She finished 33rd. The number of transgender women in the event and in the entire meet, 0. Kylie Eilons is probably the most decorated member of this group. She was a part of 2 NCAA champion relay teams at North Carolina State. She's a 31-time NCAA All-American and a 5-time ACC champion, and a current ambassador for the Concerned Women for America. Reka Yorgi is one of 2 members of this group who were in the same event as Leah Thomas at NCAA's in 22. Yorgi finished 17th in the 500-yard freestyle event that Thomas won a national championship in. Yorgi wrote a scathing letter criticizing the NCAA. Now, prior to her college career at Virginia Tech, she was an Olympian. She swam at the 2016 Summer Olympics in Rio, representing Hungary. As an anti-LGBTQ strongman and current American conservative darling, Viktor Orban's Hungary.
In Hungary, we had to build not just a physical wall on our borders and the financial wall around our families, but a legal wall around our children to protect them from the gender ideology that targets them. Family ties shall be based on marriage or the relationship between parents and children. To sum up, the mother is a woman, the father is a man, and leave our kids alone. Full stop, end of discussion.
The youngest member, and perhaps the potential future star of this group, is Arkansas junior track athlete Ainsley Erzin. Erzin's originally from Iowa, and she was to running and soccer what Caitlin Clark was to basketball. She's also a vocal supporter of the anti-trans legislation signed by Iowa Governor and noted Trump Republican Kim Reynolds. She's the daughter of Todd Erzin, who's a co-producer and presenter on the Steve D Show on the conservative Blaze television network. And during a hearing at the state capitol last year, he had this rant about Leah Thomas.
Help. Well, over at the University of Pennsylvania right now, here's what's happening. There is a guy jumping not only in the pool and destroying the girls' race times, their records, but also taking his naked body into the locker room as well.
The rest of the group are active or former student athletes. 2 of the remaining group are choosing not to make their names public. Now, one has made her name quite public, at least to right-wing centric media.
When the first article came out about Blair being trans and basically saying, don't tell Blair's story. If people ask about it, it's not your story to tell, no comment. Like it's probably best if you don't make a comment. And with that being the first meeting, no one really made comments about it. We all just kind of left. And it was just this feeling of like, what about us? Like there's 18, 19 other women on this team that are having to deal with this and the backlash, and then also having to mentally go through the fact of finding out that this is a man we're playing with, and that it's connecting all the puzzle pieces of why Blair played so differently.
So did you feel safe in playing like with Blair on your team? Like I assume you kind of scrimmage, I don't know what the word is, against one another in practice and so on. Did you feel like you were safe?
Oh no. I mean, I think it's noticeable now for anyone that can go on, like our team has access to film that you can go watch for practice. And you can just see girls the entire practice having to dodge out of the way of a swing. So like just in that video that you showed, we're not getting slammed in the face.
Brooke Sluicer is the captain of the San Jose State volleyball team and triggers their offense as their leading setter. She also joined the lawsuit September 23rd after a teammate and former roommate was outed as allegedly being trans by an anti-trans media source last spring. Now, the student athlete in question has not publicly stated her gender identity and has played Division I college volleyball for the last 3 seasons. Sluicer has remained on the team throughout this season and the subsequent forfeits by 5 teams in the Mountain West Conference during the season. The conference and the NCAA remained numb and silent through all of this, and from all accounts, at least from the NCAA, it looks like they will remain so. Charlie Baker at the hearing last week notwithstanding. While this group of 19, led by a scorned swimmer with an extra grind, continues to plead their case quite loudly. So now you know. And knowing is half the battle. For Transposition Sports, I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb.
Right. All right,
And
ladies.
here we are.
More of the same with the freaking transphobe mob coming at us. I had something just fall into my lap literally while I was watching that. I just want you guys to see, because I'll have more on this next week, but I just wanted to.
Was it a cat?
No.
Oh.
Jerry Cohen. Biology, not bigotry. So and this was posted by the Freedom from Religion Foundation too. So apparently they're taking the Jerry Cohen side of the transphobic argument, which is more biological essentialism stuff. It's like a Dawkins kind of.
Oh, great!
I've contributed
really.
I've contributed so much time to raising money for the Freedom from Religion Foundation over the last 5 years. I have donated hours of my life to helping this organization. And this came to my attention while I was watching Carly's segment. You have too, Steph. I know you have. I know you've done fundraisers and charity drives for FF.
Yeah, and there is who's the guy I'm thinking of? There's one of their lead attorneys gave a presentation at West Texas A&M, whose president wanted to ban a drag show, and Andrew Seidel, and he gave a talk to the assembled students in drag. It was awesome, and this is so disappointing. Holy shit! I
haven't read. The reason I didn't want to go ahead and just dive into it tonight is because I want to read it and contemplate it, and then probably read it again. It's not very long, but there is a lot to go over here.
Now,
and
is the organization for this, or is it?
Well, so they have this disclaimer printed at the top. It says, FFRF honorary board member Jerry A. Cohen requested that this column be written as a guest blog. The views in this column are the authors and do not necessarily reflect those of FFRF. But if you're given a platform for so far, I mean, we're going adult human female right here. So yeah,
you know what it smells like Americans for Liberty. It sounds like Atheists for Liberty. It sounds like that. It sounds like that kind of thing. Which, again, we touched on the Anglican Church's stance with regards biology, et cetera, and so forth earlier. I have to be honest. Atheism is no refuge against bad takes. Some would say atheism itself is a bad take. Others would argue that religion itself is a bad take, but it's not necessarily the case. Again, it's not it's not really what you believe. It's what you do with your belief that makes a difference in people's lives. And if the Freedom from Religion Foundation means that trans people, gay people, are somehow benefited by this,
I think the whole team's going to have to read this because there's Olympic stuff down here that I know Carly's going to want to touch on.
Yeah, I think
I dropped the link and.
Jerry Coyne's always been full of crap as far as I'm concerned anyway, so it ain't nothing new to me.
Yeah,
this guy's been out to lunch on a number of topics, even in ecology, which is kind of his thing. But new guidelines require transgender women have to complete their transition. No, the new guidelines for the 24 Olympics did not say that. See, that's an example of people that. This is why people who don't have any immersion into sports should not be into sports. No, one governing body has that rule.
And Jerry's been blogging with Emma Hilton for the last couple of years about gender shit.
He's a professional transphobe. That ain't nothing.
Exactly.
But my point is, at least
font of Beatles or whatever.
Restricted the participation. Well, Actually, he's listed all the sports that have. He's listing all the sport. He's listing essentially all the sports that have.
Tsumami has it absolutely right here with this question, and I wish we could, for whatever reason, we can't highlight things in the chat, but I'm going to call attention to this right now. Would they also feel it was okay to platform an article by a Holocaust denier, a race realist? I mean, honestly, that's what I'm looking at here.
It's a fair question to ask. I mean,
it's a totally fair question to ask, and it's a fair question for anyone who has been involved with this organization to ask of that organization. Wait a minute.
Well,
what's going on here?
Like this, it immediately. Well, my immediate thing, just perusing real quickly, skimming the article, is the amount of highly obsolete terminology in it. So, I mean, right out of the gate, this is a person who, quite frankly, is so far beyond the pale that no,
I mean,
actually, they don't reflect basic science at all. So the first commenter is erroneous on that one. I mean, it's based on his experience as a scientist. No, the man is an environmental scientist. This is not the same thing. Not even close.
I'm with you, Neil. Reading this and the hate it spews makes me ashamed to be an FFRF. I've raised money for these people. I think the line raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for these folks, didn't they? Here's Matt right here. Embarrassing. That's Matt Dillahunty right there.
That's a fair question. I mean, but it goes back to something that I'm really seeing more and more, is that America is becoming a cisgender panic room. I mean, let's face it, a lot of the cis people who are claiming allyship, they're jumping off the boat. They're jumping off the boat.
Anyway, this will be.
Well, but even here, they argue, for example, that transgender people are no more likely to be sexual predators than other individuals. Yet the facts support the opposite. This is a classic case of misreading statistics.
That's a classic lie. That's a classic.
It's a classic lie.
Yeah, they're not misreading anything. They know what they're reading. They're just trying to lie to you.
So we have to cover this, guys. This will be probably sometime and something we're all going to have our hands in next week. This just fell into my lap, and I'm disappointed in FFRF. Please contact.
I can understand the disappointment, but don't be surprised, because let's face it, the cisgender world is deciding that, you know what? Screw you, screw you, T-Slur, we're out.
And I'm looking at the comments here, the reactions to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right. Matt Dillahunty says, let's be clear about what Matt Dillahunty says in his comment, which is very brief. Embarrassing for COIN and FFRF. Absolutely right.
Absolutely right.
But the pushback from a commenter called Michael says, ditto Daniel Bastian's comments. COIN is an extreme biological essentialist and the classic example of when you're a hammer, everything is a nail fallacy. And this comment goes on at length. There is pushback in here. But
Or
as
it's a Daniel
Carly
Bastian
said,
case.
if you're not in sports, if you're not in criminology, if you're not in these fields, and you just want to take one or two examples of one or two individuals and make that your case, you're out and out lying, basically lying. That's what you're doing, lying.
There are a few people in here in the comments calling them out for this, though. So I mean, when I first started scrolling down through it, I'm like, Jesus, and everybody's on their side. But that wouldn't surprise me at this point in American history that we are going to be not liked by a majority of people, because apparently we aren't. Not much I can do about it. I can't change who I am and how I was born,
Stephanie Bree,
unfortunately.
guess what? You just turned black. Congratulations. You're black now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well, this is what it's like to operate in a marginalized community. It's not, it's not anything new, and I all you youngins,
Don't look up.
I'm doing the get off my lawn thing right now. But been dealing with this bullshit for years, and the expectation for us 26 and more years ago was to disappear. That was the expectation. Okay, you want to transition. Here's what you need to do. You need to prove you can disappear. You need to prove that you're gender enough for your acquired gender. I mean, that was standards of care. Right now, I feel like what a lot of folks would like to do is not just require that sort of thing. Oh, you can be trans, just don't talk about it, and make sure that you can fade into the shrubbery. Let me fade into the shrubbery here. Make sure you can disappear. But you can't even go that. You need to be miserable. You can't show up in public life. You need to. And I talked about this last week with Janice Raymond saying, erasing transsexual, morally eradicating transsexualism. I'm paraphrasing there. It's the same as Michael Knowles saying, eliminate it from society entirely, eliminate transsexualism, transgenderism from public life, the whole ideology. And it's not an ideology, it's a personal thing. And to me, it's like we might as well be talking Stalin. No person, no problem. So yeah, wow, that's impactful and really, really not a good look.
We're gonna have plenty to say about this. We're also probably gonna be probing some of our allies that work with FFRF and finding out how they're addressing this and where we stand. I've worked with several organizations and channels and networks on YouTube that have done fundraisers and charity drives for FFRF that I kind of want to get their bearing on this. And I haven't read it through and processed it and read it through again. I've skimmed it, didn't like it, and brought it to your all's attention immediately because it was in the middle of the show. So there will be more on this.
Well, y'all heard it here first, but thanks for dropping the link, Bree, in the chat so folks can investigate this on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Rochelle, the Colossus 789 is with me on this, but she also is a woman who transitioned quite a while ago, and lots of folks who transitioned disappeared from trans organizations back in the day. And she goes on to say, as did I. As did I. I didn't talk about these issues until 2018 when the last Trump administration wanted to make me disappear, literally, with regulations that will be coming on day one. So I've been screaming about this since 2018, and I will not be surprised if this time they do it. And this time we need to tell all those people who've had our backs, or at least told us they did, to start noticing the fucking firing squad in front of us and the wall our backs are up against, because that's what we're going to be facing real soon.
We will be back next week with more transpositions for you. As far as the call-in stuff, next week will be, if everything goes according to plan, next week we'll end with a call-in where this may be the topic that's on the table on the chopping block. So bring your thoughts. Go read the blog. I just dropped the link out there. Go read that. Let us know what you think. And we will see you next week, right, ladies?
That's right.
You bet.
We'll be back.
Join us in the Discord. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it as we come in while we're preparing to address this issue on the show with some thought.
I'll tell you, but this is what saddens me. It just seems like, I have relatives who have told me, what's the big deal? Nothing bad's going to happen. So, it's going to be no worse. It said, it may get worse for you. It's dangerous for me. And I'll admit that, even the atheists are jumping off the ship.
Yeah.
But we're seeing this in so many ways. It's like, Stephanie, I'm with you. Allies have got to step in it. And that's something I just want to leave. I want to give a parting shot, if I may, to the cis people out there who may be watching this. Again, I really think you need to sit and reflect on, if there are trans people in your life and you consider them friends, or they are relatives, or their neighbors, whatever relationship they are to you, you need to really start thinking about, what are you willing to do? Are you prepared to sit in that trench with them? Are you prepared to do it? And I'm going to go one step further. If you're not prepared to do it, you need to leave that person's life. You need to seriously look at leaving that person's life. Because at this point in time, we need the person that would hide the vulnerable from when the Nazis come. We don't need the person that will tell them where we're hiding. And you really need to think good and hard about where you're at in that equation. And as much as it is a hokey kind of liberal cliche, there's some truth to it. If you are saying, if I was alive during the early union movement or the civil rights movement or women's lib or the early gay rights movement, if you have said I would have lined up on the right side, well, guess what? It's here and it's now.
Now's your chance to prove it. Do it. Show us who you are. A lot of people are showing us who they are. A lot of people who you thought you knew who they are are showing us who they are.
And you know what? When people show you who they are, you believe them. I certainly do.
Shout out to Aaron C. in the chat, who writes, "My trans teen can't handle politics and activism."
My what?
I'm sorry, Aaron, if that was too much of a call out there. Got redacted. I won't continue. But there's a fierce mom in the chat, and I want to thank her.
We need
Very
more
much.
fierce moms in the world protecting the trans kids out there. No doubt.
No kidding.
All right.
We need coaches and teachers, and we need people. We need people. If you have trans people in your life, then now is the time, because now is the time. Now is the time. The time is now.
Okay, Aaron reposted, and I didn't get to the part that's the most important. And I fight for them. Thank you for that.
Well, we're gonna fight for your kid, Aaron. And we're gonna stand
We're gonna
up
be
for
here.
that kid.
I got nowhere else to be than right here fighting for you guys. So
I got nowhere. No, I understand that. I understand. And while we're here, when I'm not doing my thing as a journalist, I'm gonna throw this in the chat. I'm doing my thing. I fight the good fight for an organization that I care about.
There we go.
And right now, Trans Lifeline is we're gearing up for the fight in 2025. We're gearing up for the fight.
it's gonna be a fight. Don't think we're just gonna be able to continue to peacefully move forward. We're gonna have to fight.
Yes, we are. But here's the thing: we will. That's the thing I want to tell everyone is that we've been here We've been here since the beginning of time. We've been here since our species could first walk erect. We've been here. We're going to be here, no matter what is said. Earlier in Transposition Sports, you heard the hysteria coming from the person who will lead the next regime in Washington. And my response to that is, we've been here, we'll be here. And we are Americans.
It's easy to despair. So we have a video on our channel that is called hold on just a second here, in case of emergency crisis hotlines. So if you feel like you're overwhelmed with any of this stuff, there's different numbers for different organizations available on that video. So we also have the same type of information available on the Discord. So don't let current events get you down. Right now we're in a holding pattern, right? There's nothing that's for the next few weeks. There's not much that can move forward. So get your stuff in order, get your paperwork in order and stuff. But yeah, all right. Really do want to wrap it up here. Any final thoughts from the team?
No, just all the love to the people that are there for us. We need you. We need you real bad. All the love to you guys.
And
we'll be here for you too.
Whatever holiday you celebrate, make it beautiful.
Yeah. Have a beautiful, lovely holiday, and we'll see you next year.
That's right.